Ladies and gentlemen and participants, we're about to start our next session, so we invite everyone to please be seated and be ready for the next panel session. Once again, would like to invite everyone to please be seated as we'll begin our next session shortly. Thank you. And so, as mentioned, in this next session, we will explore the vast potential of carbon capture and storage, or CCS, as a catalyst for green energy investment and a critical enabler in Indonesia's energy transformation journey. And as an opener to this timely topic, we have a video presentation regarding CCS. So let's now focus our attention to the screen as we watch the video together.
Unlocking CCS potential as enabler for clean energy investment. Indonesia berpeluang mendapatkan manfaat besar dari teknologi penyimpanan karbon seperti Carbon Capture and Storage atau disingkat CCS. Teknologi tersebut berperan penting dalam mendukung dekarbonisasi sektor hulu migas dan meningkatkan daya saing industri domestik. Secara global, pemanfaatan carbon capture and storage serta carbon capture utilization and storage diperkirakan menghadirkan peluang investasi lebih dari $1 triliun AS pada tahun 2050. Lalu, seberapa besar Indonesia bisa mendulang manfaatnya? Di Asia Tenggara, Indonesia memiliki kapasitas penyimpanan karbon terbesar dengan sejumlah reservoir besar di Kalimantan Timur, Sumatera, dan Jawa. Keberadaannya bisa dimanfaatkan untuk menarik investasi asing, terutama dari negara yang memiliki keterbatasan penyimpanan karbon. Indonesia juga mempunyai sejumlah proyek CCS tahap awal yang cukup menjanjikan. Diperkirakan lebih dari 20 juta ton karbon per tahun yang bisa disimpan. Guna memaksimalkan potensi tersebut, Indonesia perlu menjalin kerjasama bilateral untuk menemukan solusi yang ekonomis untuk cross-border CCS, mendukung pengembangan melalui insentif untuk aktivasi bisnis dan komersialisasi jangka panjang. Selain itu, konsistensi regulasi serta kolaborasi lintas sektor dalam percepatan perizinan dan pembangunan merupakan tugas besar dari pemerintah saat ini yang diperlukan oleh industri. Dengan begitu, Indonesia bisa menarik investasi yang besar dan menciptakan efek berganda, seperti penciptaan lapangan kerja, membantu dekarbonisasi lapangan minyak dan gas seperti Abadi, Tangguh, dan Saka Kemang, sekaligus mendukung daya saing industri non-migas seperti semen dan baja dengan membantu pengurangan emisi. CCS juga akan memfasilitasi tumbuhnya industri baru seperti blue hydrogen, blue ammonia, dan bioenergi CCS sehingga konsisten dengan fokus hilirisasi pemerintah. Dengan demikian, carbon capture and storage menjadi elemen penting dalam mendukung daya tarik investasi Indonesia, memperkuat daya saing industri dalam negeri, dan memastikan Indonesia tetap sejalan dengan komitmen dekarbonisasi global.
All right, so that was the video showing how serious Indonesia is in advancing its CCS. And now, ladies and gentlemen, in this very next session, to deliver an opening address as well as setting the tone for this session, would like to present a keynote speech entitled Unlocking CCS Potential as an Enabler for Green Energy Investment. And now, please join me in welcoming Vice Chairman of MPR RI to the stage, Bapak Edi Suparno, to deliver the keynote speech. Good morning and silakan Bapak.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending the IPA, and thank you for the IPA of having me here to deliver a few words and updates on CCS in general. I was actually going to speak freely, but I was reminded by my team to not speak off script, because I tend to regret if I speak off script once I leave the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia is embarking on a new economic journey. This new economic journey is based on a new economic model, the carbon economy, that is. With the tremendous potential that we have in the natural base and engineered-based markets, we have the potential to grow our carbon economy and become a pillar of our economic development going forward. With tremendous potential in these markets, we do not need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to developing markets, developing regulations appropriate to the development of the carbon economy. We need to look at the success models that the US, the EU has already achieved, and more importantly, Brazil. If you see Brazil on how they have capitalized on their natural resources and technological innovation in developing new economic activities while reducing emissions in the process. Indonesia, on the other hand, is aiming to achieve high economic growth of approximately 8% going forward in the upcoming years. This target will require us to raise our electricity supply, and Indonesia will meet this growing demand by developing its vast renewable energy resources, as we have committed to continue decarbonizing our economy by 2060. As you can see, Indonesia has ample, abundance of renewable energy resources, up to 3,600 gigawatts of renewable energy resources and 600 gigatons of CCS storage space in Indonesia. That is actually the largest in the region. I'm also pleased to inform you that PLN, our state electricity company, is finalizing its general electricity development plan until 2034, of which we shall see a development of close to 70 gigawatts of new energy supply, of which about 70% of it will consist of renewable energy sources. When we talk about CCS in Indonesia, Indonesia offers one of the largest low-carbon opportunities in this region. Investments in the CCS industry is expected to reach $180 billion by 2060, with the development of 118 metric tons of CO2 CCS capacity. We expect CCS investments in the Sunda Asri Basin, in Papua, in Maluku, to attract carbon emitters in Singapore, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and others to make use of our carbon capture storage capacity. Indonesia also stands to benefit from jobs creation, boost in GDP, as well as technology adoption from our CCS activities going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, my office has had the privilege to assist and facilitate discussions on issues related to CCS development with various national and international stakeholders like yourselves, people from the industry, the policymakers, regulators, Ministry of Investments, the Ministry of Environmental Affairs, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Industry, and last but not least, the Ministry of Energy. We currently look forward to the signing of a cross-border carbon capture storage agreement with Singapore over the next few weeks. And I shall encourage the Ministry of Energy to start similar discussions with Korea, as well as picking up on my discussion with METI of Japan on their CCS interest in Indonesia. On a final note, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia needs economic growth. The world needs economic growth, but we need to be mindful that any growth going forward needs to be built on a sustainable platform. Hence, renewable energy, economic development, and carbon emission efforts need to go hand in hand. CCS can positively contribute to this cause, bringing in investments, creating jobs, transfer of new technology, and maintaining our decarbonization commitments. My office remains open, ladies and gentlemen, to all of you to iron out any issues, to discuss any matters of importance when it comes to energy transition, carbon economy, low carbon initiatives, as well as CCS. And I look forward working with all of you to unlock Indonesia's CCS potentials in the months to come, in the weeks to come, unlocking Indonesia's low carbon economy and bringing Indonesia's general economy to greater heights in the years to come. I thank you very much.
Bapak Edi Suparno, terima kasih. Bapak, please kindly remain on the stage. On this opportunity, would like to deliver a memento to Bapak Edi Suparno, and with this, I would like to call upon to the stage Mr. Wang Lei from the IPA Board to deliver the memento to Bapak Edi Suparno. Please come forward. Once again, let's give a big round of applause for Bapak Edi Suparno to have come to the IPA and his support as well for this annual event, especially in the development of CCS in this opportunity. Thank you very much. You may all return to your seats. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to proceed to our next session, which is a talk show framed under the theme CCS for Upstream, Decarbonization and Beyond. And the key objective of this session is to explore the critical role of CCS as a license to invest in upstream oil and gas, its contribution to broader climate goals, and the regulatory, economic and operational challenges of implementation, while also examining policy effectiveness, cross-border deployment, and opportunities for industry collaboration to drive sustainable energy practices. And to lead this session, we are honored to welcome our moderator and member of the IPA Board, Mr. Steve Cox. Let's give a big round of applause to him.
Hear me? I'd like to invite our speakers today to this event to really start to understand exactly what CCS and CCUS means to Indonesia and the world, and hopefully we'll get into a lively debate about how we move those objectives forward and what we can do to actually implement CCS and CCUS into Indonesia. So I'd like to invite our speakers up, please. So first up, Mr. Shoichi Kaganoi from INPEX. He's currently their vice president, senior vice president of the INPEX Corporation for low carbon solutions, and INPEX is the largest oil and E&P company in Japan. And he's responsible for promoting low carbon solutions, leveraging CCS, hydrogen, including its derivatives. Thank you very much and welcome. Our next speaker is Mr. Daniel Fletcher. He is head of CCUS business development at BP. He's responsible for developing CCUS businesses across the globe. Daniel has worked in the energy industry for 20 years in technical, commercial and leadership roles across the value chain. Welcome, Daniel. Our next speaker is Babak Ari Sudijanto, who is the Deputy for Climate Change Control and Carbon Economic Value Governance in the Ministry of Environmental and Forestry. And he's had a very storied career across many government roles. Welcome. And our final speaker is Babak Ariana Soemanto. He is the Director of Upstream Oil and Gas Business Development, Directorate of General Oil and Gas. And he holds a master's and bachelor's degree in petroleum engineering with over 20 years experience at Indonesia's Ministries of Energy and Mineral Resources. Welcome. So the format of this session is really going to be more like a talk show. So there's no presentations. We're just going to get into the detail, and I'm going to ask some questions, and hopefully we'll get some very insightful answers from our panel here. So let's kick off, if the technology would work. So let's start with Pak Ari. As we heard from our keynote speaker just a moment ago, the government of Indonesia's ambition is to grow at 8% per year GDP. And obviously the energy required for that growth is significant. So where does CCS actually fit into that plan?
Thank you, Steve. Actually, before we talk about the President Prabowo plan to have economic growth 8%, in our long-term strategy for low carbon and climate resilient up to 2050, it has been stated that for energy sector, we will have usually widely CCS. So when the president have increased its economic growth, it means that we need more energy. It means that CCS more relevant on this aspect, because when Indonesia have more economic growth, we need more energy. We will produce more greenhouse gases emission, and we need to have option to reduce it. One among them is CCS.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Let's bring the private sector in here. Let's talk to the operators now. Mr. Shoichi, so your projects are using CO2 to enhance recovery. It's a very expensive way to gain enhanced recovery in all of the projects. Have you assessed other recovery options, such as water flood or chemicals, as an alternative to the CCUS?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. A very good question, because I got the engineering background, therefore quite an interesting question. But I think you are talking about our LNG project of Masera, Abadi. We actually didn't spend much time on investigating like water flooding and things like that, just focusing on the CO2 to be used for increasing the recovery. And this is because in future, pretty much relevant to the global warming, that the low carbon LNG must be competitive in quite near future. Therefore, we focus on the CO2 CCUS for our Masera project. And I think within this, this is also in line with the petroleum operation framework. And we believe that our LNG from Masera or Abadi must be quite competitive in future.
Okay, is that because you want to sell the low carbon LNG? Are there buyers for the low carbon LNG?
Yes, a very good point. And at this moment, there is no big market in the world for actually demanding the low carbon LNG, but we need to take the action as a kind of first mover so that we can have the opportunity in future for LNG market.
Okay, thank you. Let's bring in oil and gas and Ariana. So as we move forward with the increased, as we heard from Pak Ari, the increased energy requirements of Indonesia, do you see that all oil and gas projects going forward should be net zero?
Actually, before I answer that question, I want to add some more strategic information regarding where does the CCS fit into this plan, the 8% economic target. Actually, the 8% economic target will be followed by increasing domestic energy demand and supply with the similar percentage, actually. And then, while making the effort to increase the energy production, CCS and CCUS target will have a very big investment. For example, last year, the investment in upstream oil and gas is around $70 billion. So if we add the CCS investment on top the upstream oil and gas, it will support the 8% economic growth. Okay. For example, we have the project like INPEX. We have 1 billion investment in Masela for CCS project, and also in Sakakemang, and also in CCS in Tangguh and Sunda Asri project. There are very big investment. And then to answer the question about the required oil and gas project to be net zero, right? So currently our priority is domestic energy security first.
Yeah.
Okay. How to achieve that? By doing every effort to increase energy or oil and gas production, while in the same time we also try to reduce our energy imports. So I believe net zero oil and gas project will be implemented gradually as our level of energy security increase. I think that's my answer. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, thank you. Can I just get a clarification there? So energy security comes first to make sure that you meet the energy requirements of Indonesia to meet that growth. However, you are still pushing towards that net zero for the oil and gas projects in the future.
Yes, that's right. Because as Pak Minister said, that we need to fulfill our energy first, but in the same time, gradually, we also we approve that POD for CCS project in oil and gas. That is a symbol that we also try to endorse the CCS project in the same time, right? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let's bring BP into the conversation and Daniel. So what are the key developments required to unlock CCS projects beyond purely upstream emissions reduction?
Thank you, Steve. It's a great question. I think when we think about successful CCS or CCUS projects, it's where three things come together. You've got to have the good sources of CO2, cost-effective capture. Maybe that means high concentrations or aggregated emissions as part of a hub. You've got to have good rocks, so good reservoirs, of which Indonesia is, of course, blessed with. And you need to have the right regulation and policy development that creates a commercial frame. And I think we've seen really good progress in all three of those areas across the globe. And in fact, in 2024, last year, BP was able to sanction very large-scale CCUS projects in both the UK and in Indonesia that will sequester millions of tons of carbon over their life cycle. And we expect that those projects can go beyond just decarbonizing their own emissions and be able to grow and expand with industry emissions, third-party emissions coming into those systems. And what are some of the key things that can enable that? Well, we already know that we've got the good sources and the good rocks. It's around the policy and the regulation, and particularly being able to clarify the commercial models. And that can be a mixture of government incentives or mandates, but it also can be involvement of private financing. And actually, because we were able to get a very robust set of policy and regulation in the UK, for example, our UK projects were able to engage the financial markets and secure project financing on the order of around $10 billion of non-recourse project financing, which I believe shows that if the policy is there, you can get industry, you can get the private sector, the financial institutions comfortable with the risk of CCS?
Thank you for that, Daniel. Let's talk again to Pak Ari. We heard from the keynote speech that Indonesia wants to learn from other regions and other countries in how to develop their CCS opportunities. And one of the things that we've seen very much from the EU is a carbon trading scheme. So where does the government of Indonesia see that carbon trading scheme can be useful to help with the CCS?
Okay, thank you, Steve. To explain more about the question on the carbon trading, we need to start from the presidential regulation number 98 2021 that regulate on the carbon pricing. Carbon trading is one of the methodology of the carbon pricing. The others is result-based payment and also carbon tax. Indonesia is experiencing and already exploring and implementing the carbon trading, both for emission trading and offset. The emission trading, although it's still have a limitation on the application, especially for the power generation, but we are going to develop well that. For the carbon offset, we have been inaugurated for the domestic trading on the September 2023 and the international trading on last January. We hope that it can give a platform for the effort of financing and incentive for the effort of the climate action, including the mitigation and also adaptation. While we also realize that our compliance market is still limited. So we try to have an alignment with international crediting scheme that already established. So that's why we try to have a mutual recognition agreement with some of international standard. 2 weeks ago, on May 8th, we signed the MRA with the gold standard. Now we are working with FERA. We hope in this month we can sign MRA with FERA. In the line of it, we also with Plan FIFA and other, including the GCC, the crediting scheme that have methodologies for CCS. So we are in line on that. Besides that, we also make an MRA with other countries. For example, with Japan. We already have a mutual recognition agreement with Japan that we maybe this scheme can also facilitate for this purpose. For example, with the GCM mechanism or even the CDM. We also ongoing with the Korean. So I think if we look at the Eddie presentation or remarks, we will try to accommodate on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's start to look a little bit at the complexities and difficulties of CCS projects or CCUS projects. So, Mr. Shoichi, given the high cost and the complexities of capture, could you have actually taken the project forward without CCUS? Could you have looked to provided that energy security to Indonesia without the carbon capture part of your project?
Yes, but I would say that the CO2 removal from natural gas is, of course, not straightforward, but it's commonly done in most of the natural gas processing facilities, which include our Ichthys LNG in Australia, as well as the domestic gas production in Japan. Therefore, if we really want to make LNG, we need to remove all the impurities, including CO2 and mercury and the heavy hydrocarbons. Therefore, I would say if we want to produce LNG in Indonesia, it's quite straightforward to remove the high concentration CO2 in the main process. Therefore, it's not a kind of big step forward, big one step for CCS from the normal LNG facility. Therefore, I don't think a big schematic change is required, but the point is we have made money without CCS so far. So we just vented to the atmosphere, but this is actually additional cost. So the important point is to make it cheaper as much as possible. That's the point, including the new technology to be involved, or possibly the collaboration with other industries, or possibly the future scale up so that we can enjoy the scale merit in future. Possibly like blue hydrogen or blue ammonia, or maybe somebody mentioned the third-party CO2 from outside, so that we can make the unit cost cheaper to make the CCS to be a kind of reasonable.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from Pak Ariana again. At the moment, the projects in train in Indonesia are all CCUS projects. They're all around enhanced recovery. Do you see opportunities within the industry, within oil and gas, to start looking at some CCS projects where you've got customer emissions being used in those oil and gas projects?
Okay. Before that, first of all, I would like to express thankfulness and appreciation to Pa Ari, because that was a very very progressive that Ministry of Environment already met with Vera and another carbon trading certification institution for CCS. Thank you for the support, Pa Ari, and also we do hope that our institution, like we have Lemigas, our research and development in oil and gas, can be joined to become the part of certification as well, and work together with Ministry of Environment as well. Pari, thank you very much. And then for the question, actually regarding to the CCUS project right now, CCUS, we have Pertamina that already conduct a CCUS project in Sukawati field. So far, the result have been positive and promising. This is the first one already conducted. And the second one, regarding to CCS only project, standalone project, there were at least 2 or 3 proposals submitted to our ministry right now. That is a standalone CCS project. So now we are trying to evaluate them under the Ministry Energy Regulation number 16/2024, and of course we still need the blessing from Pak Minister, and also waiting for direction from him. At least we already have 2 or 3 standalone project and CCS. In CCUS project, as the oil and gas contract, like I mentioned before, we do have Saka Kemang and also Masela and also BP Ubadari project. All the cost, the investment of all the CCS and CCUS project more than $8 billion. So that's the part of the oil CCS as a part of oil and gas upstream project. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Daniel, as we hear that there's an appetite to go to CCS projects, do you see that your CCUS projects can be expanded into capturing customer emissions?
Thanks, Steve. Yes, I think we certainly see the potential for that. So I think one of the benefits, of course, of if you've got an established CCUS project with the infrastructure in place, you might be able to maximize that infrastructure more to take third-party emissions as well. And I think we very much see significant potential for Indonesia to become a hub for international CCS. It could leverage the vast potential of Indonesia's geological formations, as well as the skills and capability for which the country has become expert in after decades of oil and gas development. And of course, building on the robust regulation that we just saw up on the screen that's already been in place and has been internationally recognized. But fundamentally, what does expanding to the concept of third-party CO2 or import of CO2 need? Again, it needs that regulatory alignment. It needs agreements between governments, so government to government, and we've heard from Pak Edi about some of the great progress there that Indonesia is making. It also needs contracts in place. And of course, Indonesia is very familiar with the LNG industry, so the concept of things like send or pay contracts, that learning can be used to apply for CO2 transport and storage too. Fundamentally, there is a need from Asian emitters which have a high degree of emissions to send CO2 somewhere, and we believe Indonesia is well positioned to compete, and that having some of those projects that are focused on upstream decarbonisation first gives Indonesia a fantastic platform from which to build out.
Thank you. Which leads on to a really good segue into Pak Ari. If we are going to look to start to store customer CO2, does the government of Indonesia see the requirement for incentives to those customers to be able to capture their carbon going forward?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. We also realize one of big challenge is the question that you just asked. So in Indonesia, we still need to develop good carbon trading in order to finance the climate action. We still have a low price on our carbon. Yes. For example, at domestic market, our carbon is just maybe less than $5 per ton. In the international market, in IDX, for the efficiency, it's only less than $7, and for renewable energy, less than $10. While for the CCS, we know that it's some data said it's need $60 per ton, and other data need $100 per ton. So it's a huge gap on that. In order to operate or implement the CCS, we need also, of course, the financial scheme. Some country like Korea, we heard that they also give us some incentive for the emitters to can have a feasible project on the carbon capture, while they combine this with the CBAM. So I think to make this project feasible, we need to have a mixed policy on that. We can also integrate, for example, CBAM on it. So it's kind of alternative. We pay tariff to in Europe in our export, like for steel, or we pay it on the CCS. In my personal perspective, I prefer the CCS because it really reduces the carbon on the atmosphere rather than we pay the tariff in so I have to admit that we don't have yet the scheme of incentive, like you said, the subsidies on others, but we need to think about it. Otherwise, it's like difficult to really develop the CCS. the strategy to mix between domestic carbon and also cross-border carbon, and not only oil and gas, but other industries, especially like hard-to-abate industry and others, we need all that kind of mixed policy on it. Thank you.
Thank you, which is a really good follow-on to the question. Right, you mentioned tariffs. You know, we've seen a shift in worldview. We've got a new American president that's drill baby drill, but has also increased tariffs. We've got the political uncertainty in Europe around the Russia-Ukraine war. Do you see that in order to compete globally, Indonesia is going to have to decarbonize rather than pay those tariffs? You see that the domestically you will decarbonize rather than pay tariffs to another trading bloc?
Yeah, of course, Steve. That actually we need to utilize this resource. Not all of the country in the world have this luxurious resource of storage in the geological formation. So we need to utilize it as best of our interest, including in the carbonization of our industry or activities. So it is a very certainly. Yeah, I think this is also important for us to how we can utilize it wisely. At the moment, actually, to be frankly, we still need to elevate or leverage our domestic purposes first, because it still cannot or not yet can compete with the international or the potential cross-border carbon. We need to leverage it to make it a level playing field in order to this resource can serve our domestic carbon.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Shoichi, we've seen, pure oil and gas projects. There's always a negotiation between the operator and the government, usually around the terms of the PSC. How do you see that moving forward with a CCUS project that's attached to an oil and gas project? If there are difficulties with incentives, how difficult do you see those CCUS projects moving forward?
Yes, actually, I tend to feel the hydrogen and the CCUS business is kind of slowing down comparing with a couple of years ago. And when I joined the Sarah Week in Houston this year, the people, or especially American people, are focusing on come back to the hydrocarbon. However, the people in Europe is a kind of opposite position, taking opposite position. And however, I discussed with the many people, but the science is still the same, that the earth is getting warmer. So we have to do something. And we, INPEX, actually trying to talk to the government, to the regulation, the incentives especially, that we need the subsidy at this moment, because as I mentioned that CCS is a kind of additional cost. Therefore, we need subsidy, but we also need the, but I think that there should be a stick, not only carrot, but also stick, to make the things moving forward. So not easy. That unfortunately the situation is slowing down. But what we can do is to discuss with the government for changing the scheme and establishing the framework. And also, it is also quite important to collaborate with other industries or even for the same industry to sharing the risks for doing this new business around the CCS. Therefore, I think still a clear solution or conclusion will be coming shortly, but I think we still need keep this kind of discussion for the time being.
Okay, thank you. Just a quick follow-up question on that. Does INPEX expect to have lower economic hurdles for a CCUS project rather than a standard oil and gas project?
You're talking about the standalone CCS?
Oh, no, for a CCUS project or a CCS project, are you expecting to earn lower returns from that than you would from a pure
yes.
oil and gas?
Unfortunately, at this moment, as I mentioned, that we need some subsidy or some support. Means some amount of tax need to be used for the project. Means how can we earn lots of money similarly to oil and gas from the tax? Therefore, I don't expect a huge amount of return from the CCS project. That's the reason why we need to collaborate and think about what's the best way to make it economical to make some money from the CCS.
Okay, thank you. Daniel, we've heard a lot today about how CCS and CCUS are going to help with the decarbonisation of Indonesia, but also with the growth and the energy supply to Indonesia. What role do you see the CCUS projects that we have currently helping with that?
It's a great question, Steve. So I think CCUS projects across the globe, firstly, as Shoichi-san was saying, there are lots of learnings to be shared across those projects. And I think we've seen tremendous amount of collaboration across governments, across industry, financial institutions. So I think there's an element of learning, particularly around the risk management. So the question of the chicken and egg, the source and the store, who goes first, how you manage that risk if one were to go down. Those are learnings which are being now, I think, picked up by many governments around the world, picking on learnings of what's worked and what hasn't from various projects. And then, of course, there is the fact of having established some of the infrastructure. So in Indonesia, for example, those projects that are being built or are planned, those projects are able then to expand, maybe based on the learnings from other hubs, and particularly that hub approach used to drive scale, drive costs down, and with that scale comes a reduction in that cross-chain risk fundamentally. And I believe that's what's getting people like the financial institutions comfortable with then supporting investment in CCS and CCUS projects and hubs that then can expand beyond, and perhaps one day don't need any government support whatsoever, but it takes that start to get there, to get the costs down and to get the risk profile to an investable level.
Okay, thank you. I'm conscious we've only got about 20 seconds left of our session, so unfortunately we won't be able to take any questions from the floor. However, I've just got one question. Probably I'll start with Pak Ariana, but I'll open it up to the entire floor. So we've seen that Indonesia has a fantastic geological advantage for storing CCS. Do you see the opportunity to store other countries' CCS going forward, whether it's Japan, Korea, Singapore? How do you see that working with Indonesia?
Yeah, actually, we have to discuss it with the Ministry of Environment first. But what we prepare in the Ministry of Energy, we already prepared the ministerial regulation to support that our 600 gigaton potential carbon storage in saline aquifer can be useful. And also for the benefit of domestic, we also has domestic market obligation, like 70% for domestic, and I think that's the government support, and the other one, the interesting thing about the incentive and subsidy, because I really interested about that, because actually there are many samples in another country that give the subsidy or incentive to the CCS project. But in Indonesia, of course, we have to talk to the Ministry of Finance first. But actually, while the CCS or CCUS in upstream oil and gas scheme, the project is funded by cost recovery first. So I think the benefit of Indonesia, we can claim the carbon reduction for Pak Ari, for Ministry of Environment, to support our NDC target. Okay. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Anyone else want to wade in on that question before we close?
Steve, maybe I'll just add one thing, because I think we see a huge demand potential in Asia, and they need to send that CO2 somewhere. And of course, Indonesia has the rocks, as we talked about. It's got a really fantastic foundation in the regulation from which to build, and it's got some of the first commercial CCS and CCUS projects in the region, and of course the skill set and the national capability to make that work effectively. So we believe it's well positioned. It's just a question of timing, and it requires collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you all speakers. I'd like, please, the audience to give a round of applause for our speakers today for this session. It's been very insightful, and I hope you got as much out of it as I did. But for now, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can we give a big round of applause for this exceptional session? Thank you, Mr. Steve Cox, for also leading the session. And now we invite all speakers and moderator to stand up at the center stage and we will deliver the memento. And for this, we'd like to invite Mr. Wang Lei and Mr. Kevin Moore to come on stage and present the mementos to all speakers and moderator for the session. Once again, we thank insights from all speakers for the panels CCS for upstream, decarbonization and beyond. We got the insight on how CCS and CCUS policy can help Indonesia's competitiveness for oil and gas investment especially. All right, all speakers have received their mementos, and let's use this opportunity for a photo session. Gentlemen, don't forget to face the camera and smile. Yeah, that's it. All right, in 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much. Thank you all speakers. Thank you, moderator, for this exceptional session, and you may return to your seats. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the session of CCS for upstream, decarbonization and beyond. We hope the insights shared today have sparked new ideas, encouraged collaboration, and strengthened our collective commitment to a more sustainable energy future. And for now, ladies and gentlemen, participants will take a break before we'll continue with the next series of parallel sessions. And please refer to your agenda for room allocations and locations. For now, ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to stay with us as we continue the conversation on Indonesia's energy future, this time by exploring the economic and industrial opportunities of carbon capture and storage. The next session is titled Accelerating Investment and Multiplier Effect with CCS. And that session will take place a little later at 3:30 p.m. right here at Nusantara Hall. In addition, here in Nusantara Hall, we will feature a special inauguration by the President of the Republic of Indonesia, marking a significant milestone in our collective journey towards a sustainable energy future. So don't miss it, and we'll see you back here at Nusantara Hall at 2 p.m. for the inauguration session. And in the time being, we understand that you'd like to network and still talk with your partners and maybe future clients. But for now, we kindly request everyone to exit the room for a short while as we prepare the venue for the next session. And feel free to enjoy other programs and exhibitions at the 49th IPA Convex 2025. For now, enjoy your time, and we'll be calling you shortly for the next session. Thank you for your understanding and cooperation.